3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, watchers and listeners. Hello, Anne.
Hello.
I'm Nick Smith, and you are?
I am Anne Shepphird.
And we've never met before, right?
No, we have not. No. Yes.
Great.
We are
where are you?
both Four Horsemen authors. Yes.
Where are you right now, Anne?
Right now I'm actually in Santa Barbara, California, which is actually going to be the next setting for the for my travel mystery series, Destination Murder Mysteries. So so it's fun this is my exploring time.
Yeah.
How about you?
I am in Western New York, surrounded by cats.
Oh, nice.
Getting inspired for books.
Okay.
My book, Milk Treading, which is out now from Four Horsemen. So that's great. We got to mention our books.
Exactly. So tell me about your other books, though. And so they're all with cats, like the detective novels with cats? Is that?
That's right. Yeah. Set in cities created by cats where they see this cat hair everywhere. Where they have built their own restaurants and their own shops, and they have a newspaper called The Scratching Post, and these cats either solve crimes or create crimes. You know, cats can be a lot of trouble. It's a series of books.
Too, so.
you know. It's a series of books called Whiskers in the Dark. 3 of them are out, and one more comes up next month. The Bay of Hounds, where they go to the city of the dogs.
Uh-oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Deal with the dogs. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. Yeah, we have 2 ourselves. I actually heard something on a podcast recently that I think on some cat company is calling this the year of the cat dad. So maybe you can play on that.
Maybe I can. I mean, they're not my cats, but hey.
Yeah.
I'm more like the cat uncle. I play with them and then I give them back. Yeah. So we have questions to answer, right?
Yes. Let me first mention my other books, just so I can do that.
Yes,
so I have 2 series that I write for Four Horsemen. So one is a kind of satiric romantic comedy series. There's The War Council and The Italy Affair. And then my mysteries are and here's the first one. This is Destination Maui, part of the Destination Murder Mystery series. So it's about a travel writer who solves mysteries on her trips. And the first one, she goes to Maui. The second one, she travels around Monterey. The third one is Lake Tahoe. And then the one that'll hopefully come out later this year that I've already turned in is called Destination New York City. So it takes place in New York City. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we're both mystery authors, at least.
Exactly.
Both written from magazines. What kind of magazines have you written for?
Well, I've freelance wise, I've written for just about anything, just, anyone who would hire me essentially. But for 20 years, I was the editor of a travel industry magazine that went to meeting planners. So the travel mysteries are kind of based on a lot of my experiences. And the idea came about actually on one trip because what they do is they invite a bunch of writers to check out a destination. And I was on a trip. A group of writers were thrown together the first day, and one of the writers was just one of the most obnoxious people you've ever met. And we were about to go on this train ride, and I went up to my room and I called my husband and I said, "Oh my God, this person is so obnoxious." And he's like, "Ooh, so if there's a murder on the train, we know who it will be." And I thought, that is actually a great idea for a story. So that's kind of how it was born. And so, yeah. And also one of the things I used to enjoy doing on my own trips was to pick up mysteries to read on the plane home at a destination, because mysteries, as you know, are about a lot of times about place and people. And it's just so fun to kind of reinvigorate yourself about the place you've just visited by reading a mystery on the way home. So.
Oh, that makes sense. What a great idea. Yeah. Because I would think reading one before and kind of.
Yeah, but I like reading them after, because you've seen it and you've felt it. And now when they when they mention a place, you have this kind of visceral reaction to it. You're like, "Oh, I know I just was there, and that was this, and oh my God, yeah." So it's a fun thing to do.
That's awesome. The little details you can recognize.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what's the War Council?
So the War Council was essentially it's about a college professor who decides she wants to make love logical. So she creates kind of a paramilitary relationship counseling service, kind of like the team from Mission Impossible, and what would happen if you hired them to make your love life work the way it should. So, so that was, again, it's very satiric kind of look at love and life and how we all are. And then the sequel, which came out last year, is The Italy Affair, where this same professor, some of her friends go on an alumni association tour of Italy. So it's kind of has fun touring around that as well. And especially having now, because of my travel experiences, I do love doing travel destinations in my books.
Right, more travel. I was in Rome and Venice last year. It was so inspiring, you know, as well, to see all the history and just the characters, you know, the people.
Well, it's just, it's crazy. And that was my whole thing, is like, it has an organization, but not one that we really recognize at first. You know what I mean? Coming from such a different place, you know? And so I kind of played with that a little bit of, it's like, it was that it's messy in a way that we don't, you know, which is fun. That's what's fun about it. Yeah.
Like,
how about you? What do you have coming up next? What do you have coming up next?
Okay, so Bay of Hounds is the next book, and then there's a fantasy series called Dawnfire Rising, which has humans in instead of cats. It also has other creatures, but because it's fantasy. But just a chance to world build and, you know, tell a longer continual story. The cat books, you can read any one kind of out of order if you want to. But the fantasy one, it kind of really goes from A to Z through the books.
Oh, fun.
And everything the characters do has consequences.
Okay.
So you can't just go fight a monster.
Right.
There's going to be consequences. Maybe the monster has a family. We don't know.
Yeah.
So that's been fun to play with and escape into that world. Balancing it with real life, though, you know, you're escaping and you're writing and you're trying to come up with these fantastical elements, and then you have to pay the bills and you have to take the garbage out. And like, oh, my head.
So that's probably a good segue to our first question, which is, what is something about your writing process that you think is really weird?
Definitely. You're really good with the segues, Anne. So I think the weirdest thing is I jump around so much, and I've found the older I get, the more I jump from one project or one piece of work to another. So it used to be, you know, in my 20s, I would sit in a chair and I would work on a novel. I would keep writing until my back said, no more writing for you. Yeah, I'd be like, oh my God, you know. And now I jump around to publicity, social media, reading screenplays, working on a movie, and then back to the novel. It really just gives my head time to percolate. I guess as my stories get more complex, I just need that thinking time to be like, how am I going to get my hero out of this situation? I'll go and vacuum and then come back and figure
Vacuuming is the best.
Yes.
Vacuuming, I've just found, is like the way to trigger your brain. Yeah.
How about you, Anne?
It's kind of similar because, when my first books, I really plotted them out, and I find I can't do that anymore. I don't know. It's like my brain is like, no, let's just start it. But then that also sends me places. It's a bit like the last one in New York City. I set up this great kind of locked room murder. Yeah. And then I had to figure out how to solve it myself, because I'm like, how could you do that? You know, so sometimes that happens. So I think the weird thing is I've noticed I have to take myself away from my home environment more often. So I try to get away for like 2 or 3 days and do nothing but be in the world of the book. Because as you said, like at home, there's just so many distractions. You know, there's the cats, there's the husband, there's the house, there's this, I play tennis, you know. I mean, a lot of times ideas do come like on the tennis court or vacuuming or doing that thing, but sometimes it takes a while, I've found, to get into the world of the book. And then you get interrupted and it stops, versus allowing it to keep going. And then finally, then the words can start flowing out for me. So it's just kind of sneaking away. It's become very, I'm sure it's weird, but it's become important for me.
And I've trained myself to write anywhere. I can write, you know, at the swimming pool. I can write in the carpool. Yeah. Right at the airport. That's a great place to. Yeah. Anywhere where you have to wait for something.
Yeah, true.
A notebook or a MacBook. But to really, truly go deep into that world, into that mystery or that, you know, strange land,
Yeah.
That takes a hot second. I need time to do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because then there's that point when you're in there that the characters start talking to you and telling
Mhm.
you what they want us to have them do. But it's just hard to get to that place. And again, it's almost like you have to leave this world and enter that one to get to be in that portal. And little snippets come to me in different places. The other day, I was playing tennis and somebody's like, oh, you know what I should have them do is, you try to run over and like write it down while you're there.
Yeah.
But the longer actually writing it out, you
have to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said about the plot, I like my characters to surprise me.
Yeah.
Do unexpected things. They have, character traits and they have personalities, but still they're as human as I can make them. So
Right.
they might shift gears and I need to be ready for that. I'm like, you did what? I need to put that down. Okay.
So do the cat books, do they have the same characters from book to book to book?
They do pretty much. Julius Kyle is the hero of the main kind of part of the book. So he's a cat journalist.
Okay.
He covers the stories in his cat city. He also writes books, and one of the books that he writes is The Cat Who Stole the Cream. So you all can read his book, The Cat Who Stole the Cream. It's a story within a story.
Oh, fun.
Like a cat.
Because I noticed that you get to know the ones that go from book to book, you get to know better, and
Yes.
I know exactly how in the mysteries, her name is Samantha Powers,
Mhm.
and she's a former investigative reporter turned travel writer and has kind of a snarky sense of humor, which is fun to write. And
Where does that
but
come
I know her well. And
Where does that come from?
I know exactly. Yeah, it's all the things I can't say in real life she can say.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, or think. It's all the things we all probably think but wouldn't say out loud because we're too polite. And she gets to think them and say them. And
Sure.
but from book to book, you get to know them better, and they can kind of tell you how they feel about something even more than we can. Sometimes it's funny that way.
Yeah, it is bizarre.
Yeah.
Okay, should we do question number 2?
Sure.
What font do you write in and why?
I am not a font person. What's funny is because I was the editor of a magazine for 20 years, and we would have these meetings where my designers and art director and would like wax poetically about serifs and sans serifs and all of these new fonts and why we do them in this. And I just leave it on Helvetica or Times New Roman, whatever it comes up on the page. I have to admit, that's not really something I think about too much. And so, it's funny because I know people who do and who are very particular about their fonts, but I've never really been that way. How about you?
Because I write screenplays as well, my go-to is Courier 12.
Okay.
The screenplay format font.
Right.
It reminds me of my grandpa's old typewriter. So I started typing my stories on his old typewriter. He was Pop. He was my Pop.
Nice.
And it was you really had to bash the keys.
Yes.
Make the letters stamp on the piece of paper, and I had my carbon in there.
Yeah.
And I would just punch away until my fingers were sore.
Yeah.
When I was a kid. So that's always kind of stuck in my memory as something that will hold. Yeah. Something that's that will stick.
Right.
Even though I can use any font I want, right?
Right. Yeah. There's millions of them.
But that one is like boom, boom. Okay.
Yeah.
Courier 12.
I think it happened because I still remember I got so excited when the IBM Selectric, do you remember those?
Yes.
Came out? It was kind of when computers were just coming out, but the fact that they had the eraser key, because I like to type I learned to type in 9th grade. And so I could type really fast, but you make mistakes. And so having the eraser key was just so exciting. But I think that's Courier. Yeah. That was the same.
Incredible. Technology.
I know. Exactly. I know. It was this huge lumbering. Now we have, these lovely little laptops that we can carry around. And that was this, huge 30-pound behemoth that sat on the desk.
It's been wonderful to see the progress, electric typewriters, electronic word processors.
Yeah.
And now little laptops.
Yeah.
And tablets.
Although the funny thing I've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed, that my new MacBook Air is heavier than my old one, that they're going back to heavy, which I find interesting because they got really light. And when I went to get my new one earlier this year, I'm like, oh, it's heavier. Well, I mean, but I guess because they have the iPads, they're not making them quite as light.
That makes sense. Yeah, they don't want it to float away.
Exactly.
All right, we have one more question.
Yep. All right. What book made you want to write?
That's a really good question. I mean, I've always written. I don't know about you, but I've written since I was tiny.
Yeah.
So there's no specific. There's the Ladybird books and the kind of how to read books were important to me. Or I still remember my mom sitting me on her knee, reading me the stories, and we got into the stories. Definitely from the cat books point of view, I would say something like The Animals of Farthingwood, Colin Dan's book, which was amazing. That was read to me in elementary school, as part of our class. And just the way that all the different animals had distinct personalities. Those animals hanging out in the wood, and you just knew who they were, and they were true to themselves. So that really stuck with me, that one. Enid Blyton as well, when I was a kid. The Folk of the Faraway Tree was a whole series where they would travel and solve mysteries. And her stuff was just solid storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other one when I was a kid was A Christmas Carol. The first Charles Dickens that I really kind of read the whole way through.
Yeah.
And that was like a gateway drug to all the wonderful books that he wrote.
Yeah.
So those kind of helped me. They encouraged me. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Fun.
Do you have a particular one, Anne, or?
Well, there's probably a few. I mean, I was a total Nancy Drew girl, so I just ate those up. And then like Harriet the Spy, I loved her because she carried around her notebook, and she wrote about it. And I used to, we all did, we all carried our notebooks and wrote down.
Sure.
So I think that was the first time I thought, I could write stories about the stuff happening around me. And again, and I've always loved mystery. So went from Nancy Drew then to Agatha Christie. I still remember, when I read Murder on the Orient Express. Yes. Just being blown away, especially by, the way that was solved. And just, it was like that was cool because she had me, and did that. And then kind of a funny one is, I think I was in my teenage years when I read The World According to Garp and the John Irving novel. And there was a certain point where they talked about what Garp's life was like as a writer. So I think he wrote in the mornings, and then in the afternoon he went and coached wrestling over at the university. And I thought, that sounds like a really nice life. I just, not being stuck, stuck somewhere all day, like, in a regular 9-to-5 job. He wrote for a few hours, and then he worked out for a few hours and did it at home. And I thought, I think that sounds like a very nice life to me. And so that was definitely a seminal one as well for me. So. Yeah.
Certainly John Irving has written some wonderful books that can inspire writers and readers. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. And Agatha Christie, I remember I devoured those when I was a teenager. Especially you have a little more time maybe as a teen, so you can really kind of gobble up all the books by a certain author. So reading through, especially the Miss Marple books and other Agatha Christie, it's like, this is great. Give me another one. Yeah. Well, and then one of my favorite writers also was Sue Grafton, who wrote the Alphabet series. A is for alibi, B is for burglary. And I think I discovered her at like G or H and just devoured them, and then couldn't wait every year for the new one to come out. Cool. And, so, and just loved those. And I loved them so much that after graduate school, I went to graduate school and actually in film and television at UCLA. Oh, nice. And, there's that period of like, I was reading scripts. I had all these little part-time jobs, and I was like, I kind of could use one more part-time job. So I actually went and worked for a private investigator for a few hours every afternoon, where I wrote his reports, and did computer searches and stuff like that. I learned I could find out anything about anybody, and this was pre-internet. So it is kind of amazing how much of our life is discoverable out there. But her books led me to, writing reports for a private eye. So that was fun. That's wild. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I mean, there's so many books we could talk about, but
I know.
but we can talk about anything we want now because
I
we've
know.
answered
We're
the
done with our
question.
questions.
We did the 3, 2, 1. Yeah, we followed the.
Yeah. What kind of films do you make?
I make all kinds of films, comedies, horrors, romance, sometimes all three put together. So,
nice. Nice.
The last one that came out is called Zombies. It's like a Sci-Fi Channel B movie about mutant zombie bees.
Oh, fun.
And, it's a relationship story.
Uh-huh.
We've got the bee mystery has to be solved by a bee expert who comes back to the small town where he grew up, and he has to work with the lady that he left at the altar.
Well, of course,
There's
yes.
friction. Yeah. So they're trying to take care of the bees and their messed up relationship. But just telling a good story.
Yeah.
In all its forms, all the genres. I
Yeah.
try to listen to the audience, see what they're interested in. So
Yeah.
if they want a vampire shark movie, I will give them that.
Exactly. My cousin is a writer director of films as well, and he made one called Jersey Shore Shark Attack years ago. That was
yes, that's a classic.
That was actually really funny. I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
they are funny. Yeah, they're funny. And one of my favorite films is Sullivan's Travels.
Oh, yes, love that.
So I love the message of that it's okay to make a little,
that it's important to laugh. I mean, that's what I feel like all my books, it's something I feel it need to be in all my books, that they're all humorous look at life, because you have to laugh at it, in my opinion, so it's the only way to get through it, I think,
Yeah, you can't stress out too much or take everything too seriously.
Exactly. Yes, that was one of the things about working for the private investigator. I learned a lot, but then ultimately, after about a year of doing it, it's like, man, this is just about the really darkest part of humanity, because it's people suing each other, it just was not. And so I'm like, I need something lighter, which is kind of how I fell into working for the travel magazine. I'm like, oh, this is nice. I enjoyed this.
That's a dream job for a lot of people. Wow.
It is. I know. And I totally fell into it. And it is. And it is fun. I think a lot of people don't realize kind of how the travel industry works, which is that, again, like a destination or a hotel invites writers who write for particular magazines to come visit, and then they wine and dine us, and it's really nice. And whenever I was frustrated, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna leave this job. I'm like, oh, but I'm going to Scotland next week, so I'm gonna wait till after that.
Stick it out.
Then I'll leave, and then I never left. Exactly. So,
I always wanted to write for magazines, but the first one I ended up writing for was one I would never expect to. It was a weddings magazine.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Charleston weddings.
Those are huge.
Yeah. So I got to write about wedding. I'm like, this is what I dreamed of, but I kind of reached it by a completely different direction than I expected. Yeah. So that was great. That made me think about life differently. Whatever circuitous route we take, we're going to end up in the right place if we keep pushing.
Well, and it's all about, as storytellers, I was going to say, I can write about anything, and my magazine got acquired by a bigger company. And so I was freelancing for a while. And so I ended up writing about design. It's like, at one point I'm writing about these fancy $150,000 watches for one magazine. I'm like, oh, I can figure out, let's write about it. Just tell me about them.
Yes.
At one point I was writing for a parking industry magazine, and it ends up, it's kind of fascinating industry. It's like everybody has to park, it's like, and there's a lot of politics and technology that go into it. And so it's kind of fun sometimes to work certain industries, and naturally they all end up making great characters in the books, because you meet differently, it's like, these different people. So
I love that. Yeah. Definitely being able to write about anything helps to pay the bills.
Exactly. Sure. Yes. Yeah. You interview someone, you find out what their story is, and then you weave the story. Yeah.
It's a challenge, but
yes. Certain things are like, oh my God, how am I going to make this interesting? But
you put the coins in the meter and that's it.
Exactly.
All right. So you have a book coming out maybe near the end.
Hopefully later this year. I'm still waiting to get the actual release date. So so Destination New York, and it's we've been through editing, and so now it's off to typesetting. I'm waiting to get a cover. Excited about that, and it's fun. It takes place in a one of those kind of old historic luxury hotels in New York City, which I just love, And so it was, and I went to New York 3 times last year doing research, and some of the research was fun because it's like, are there alleys behind hotels? Where do people throw out the trash? Could you sneak into one? And so I'm like sneaking around the garbage area of these fancy hotels in New York to see if like, how do I set this up? What does this look like? Yeah. So
one of the things I like as a filmmaker is having that kind of secret access, or seeing sides of a location that other people would not.
Yeah.
It makes me feel special. So you're kind of definitely looking at access, but also all the people who work behind the scenes.
Yes. Exactly.
Everyone. And
I still pull out the travel card a lot for that. It's like, oh, I'm a travel writer. I'm in the area, and everyone's like, oh yeah, come in. Well, let me show you all. Like, great, thank you.
Why not? You're going to tell them you're going to murder them later.
Exactly. Well, that's one of the things I do is that I always create fake hotels within a real destination because no one wants to have their hotel be the site of a murder. So
no, definitely not.
Yeah. And then your book that's coming out this next month.
Yeah. So June 17th is the next one, The Bay of Hound.
Okay.
Yes.
And this is the dog one.
This is the dog one. So then all 4 books will be out for people to read. But of course, this is the perfect time to read their first 3.
Yes.
And the perfect time to read your mysteries leading up to the New York City one.
Exactly. Yes.
So you're all set.
I'm the type that with any series, I have to start from the beginning. It's just, I can't just dip. I know some people can't. I have every once in a while, like if I picked up one at an airport bookshop and said, oh, this is fun. Then I go back and I start at the beginning and start my way through again.
I think TV's changed that a little bit now, especially after shows like Lost. Audiences are more used to nonlinear storytelling and lots of flashbacks.
Yeah.
So you can always read book 2 and then flashback to book 1.
Yeah.
And you just
well, I don't know
like the show.
You do this. I always try to have someone be a beta reader for me who hasn't read the previous ones to make sure I lay out enough of the backstory so that they're not confused. Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Just, it's like, is there anything you missed? It's like, no, got it. Okay. All right. I got the gist. Like, okay.
Yeah. Figured it out. What else would you like to talk about? We've got the full ballpark here.
I know. I don't know. How about you? Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, this is as live as it can get. I've got the electrician here. The plumber might come in any second.
Okay.
The cat jumping on the screen. Who knows what will happen? But yeah, I mentioned a vampire shark movie. So that's what I'm kind of juggling right now. I know it sounds goofy, but we talked about that. The goofy is okay.
Well, but I think I think that's big right now. The goofy. I mean, vampire shark. That's fun. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how he. Yeah, is there a vampire shark that bites him and makes him become a vampire?
The vampire bites the shark, and then the shark bites a girl, and it's all about the girl who has to deal with the strange transformation she's undergoing.
So did she become a shark and a vampire?
She becomes a vampire shark girl.
Okay.
So very much in my hands right now. We're casting, we're finding locations. We're going to film it in Northwest Florida.
Okay. That seems like a perfect place for a vampire shark.
It's a lot of fun. It has a lot of humor. And just putting it all together is fun. Just having excited phone calls. I just talked to the special effects makeup artist earlier.
Oh, fun.
And we're just getting all excited. Oh, yeah, we can give her gills and big teeth. And, it's just fun putting it all together, working with very talented people. We'll film it this summer.
That's great. That's the most fun part. When I was in film school, I did critical studies, history, criticism, and theory. So studying film as an art form. But everyone at UCLA has to make a film. So we all had to make our own 10-minute film. And so I took a short story I wrote and then, did everything. But it was what was so fun is the collaborative spirit of it.
Yes.
Is suddenly my cinematographer going, if I use this lens, I can get this really cool thing. And or someone going, what if we put her in this dress? And you're like, this is so fun. That's so great. You're bringing my story to life like this. This is really fun. So
that is definitely my favorite thing about it. And it works really well because the writing for me is solitary. I got to sit alone and work, make myself work, but then I can go play with friends.
Yes.
And film something.
Yeah.
So I get that social release that I wouldn't have if I was just writing.
Yeah.
Plus, I love to travel.
Yes, well, that's Again, I became addicted to it. At the travel magazine, I would go on like 10 trips a year, and now if I'm home for more than 6 weeks, I'm like, honey, I gotta go because I start to go nuts. I need to find a place to visit. So that's been fun doing the travel mysteries because then I come and I check out a new area and I get to see it, kind of try to do it as a travel writer would see it and depict it well. It's a point of pride for me is that I really try to capture an area the way it really is. And so it's fun to keep checking out new destinations. And I feel like it wakes my brain up, to do that. Yeah.
So what is your favorite destination that you've written about in one of your books?
I mean, they've all been really fun. They all begin and end up in Carmel, California, and I love it up there. My uncle has a house, and I'm lucky enough to get to go stay there whenever I want. And I just love that area. So of course, I set the series there. Sure. And so they've all. I mean, I only pick places that I love. So Maui was a place I got to travel to a lot with the magazine, and I just love Maui, and I loved depicting the spots that people sometimes don't see as a tourist, the upcountry area. There's some great ranches and farms and cute little towns. And it was really, really fun. And
off the beaten track.
It was fun. Huh?
More off the beaten track.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was fun. And then, I mean, I love, it was fun doing New York City. Although New York City was a harder one because there's just so much to it. Yeah. So how do I kept having to figure out how I'm going to winnow it down. I can't do all of New York. It's like,
that'd be a really big book.
It's just, let's just take this little part here. So
So how about a destination that you haven't written about yet that you would like to focus a book around?
I'm not sure yet. One idea, I mean, I have ideas for upcoming ones, Telluride I love. I've been to the film festival almost every year in the last 20 years. So I love that area. I love Santa Fe. That was another place that I just loved every time I got invited. Glacier National Park area I love, of Montana. I mean, there was, certain areas that when I was at the magazine, I said yes every time they invited me. I'm like, sure, I'll come back. Yeah. So those at some point would be fun to go back and see them again and write about them. So there's a lot of different places, and Italy's great. Italy's always fun too.
Yeah. And like you say, it's a little bit messy. So that's
the theme of the Italy affair is that it's messier, but messy can be good for us sometimes. Yeah.
I have had such a good time chatting with you.
Very fun. I can't wait. I'm going to go read some of your books since I have kitties and love dogs, and Instagram has figured out I only want to see cat and dog videos. So
Instagram knows all. Yeah. Well, please take a look. You can find them on Nick Smith Films. Okay. I found your website.
Good. Yes, I'm an Ann Shepphird, and no one spells the last name the way I do, except for my cousin. But people who are related to me.
It's good. It makes you easy to find.
Easy to find. AnnShepphird.com. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 P's HI. Exactly.
It's a really cool website. I was checking out all the covers of your books and your series. Yeah. So I want to read those.
Yes. Very fun. Yes, and you can buy them from Four Horsemen Publications. So
What a great idea! Yeah, I'll do that.
All right. Well, nice chatting with you.
We did it. We did 3, 2, 1.
We did it.
You take
3, 2, 1, go.